Time seems to stop, clocks seem to lie, and entire streets can act as portals to alternate timelines. These are more anomalies in time. Did CERN alter our reality? This Reddit user had a very eerie experience while heading home. This happened a few years ago, and I still think about it. I was driving home from work on a route that I had taken every day for years. I remember stopping at one red light, checking the clock on my dash, and thinking I was running a little late. Next thing I know, though, pulling into my driveway. The weird part is the time. According to the clock, about 10 minutes had passed. That doesn't sound like much. My drive was usually under 5. There's nowhere to accidentally zone out and add time. No long roads, wasn't much traffic that day, I wasn't tired. Yet, I don't remember anything between the red light and my street. I've tried to write it off as autopilot driving, but can't seem to shake the feeling that the missing time just doesn't add up. And from a now deleted Reddit user, we have a very odd story about a new hallway suddenly showing up in an office building. Redditor wrote the following: I work in a fairly standard office building with cubicles, conference rooms, the usual. Well, one afternoon, I was walking to grab a printout from the supply room. That's when I turned down a hallway I swear I'd never noticed before. The walls, the carpet, the lighting, it all looked part of the building, but everything felt off. I walked the entire hall, saw no one, reached the end, and there was just a locked door that definitely wasn't there before. I turned around and went right back the way I came. I asked a coworker later if they knew about a new hallway or storage area, and they looked at me like I was crazy. Nothing had changed. The rest of the day, I just kept thinking about it. Next, let's talk about something called the Chronostasis Effect. This is something most people have experienced, even if they didn't know it had a name. You glance at the clock, and for a split second, the second hand looks frozen. It feels like that second lasts longer than it should. And then everything goes back to normal. That effect is called chronostasis, and it's not the clock malfunctioning. It's your brain, sort of. Here's what's actually happening in simple terms. When your eyes quickly move, like when you look from one thing to another, your brain kind of blocks out what you see during that movement. Otherwise, everything would just be all blurry. Instead of letting you notice a tiny gap in time, your brain fills it in. It stretches the first moment you see after the eye movement to cover that missing time. So you look at a clock, your brain makes it feel like the second hand has been sitting there longer than it really has. In a way, you're experiencing this brief little moment that never actually happened. You're not imagining it though, your subconscious brain is just kind of editing reality right in front of you. It's kind of nuts. Speaking of being confused when looking at your clock, this next Reddit user had a very unsettling experience writing, I woke up for work like normal and checked my phone. It said 7:12. I remember it clearly because I was relieved. I thought I'd overslept, but I still had time. Got up, showered, made coffee, fed the cat, all the usual stuff. I even remember checking the time again while my coffee was brewing, still around 7:20 something. When I got in my car and started it, the dashboard clock said 6:38. At first I thought my car clock was wrong, but it's always been accurate. I checked my phone again, now it said 6:38 too. I didn't suddenly feel like I'd gained extra time, it was just earlier again. I guess the clock on my phone was wrong and then corrected itself? Is that even a thing? Can't shake the feeling that I lived part of that morning twice. Quick question. How does Mickey Mouse hold up his pants? A lot of people will confidently say suspenders, at least some of us anyway. You can kind of picture them, especially in that very first cartoon that's etched so many of our brains. Steamboat Willie from 1928. Now, which one of these versions do you think is the real one? If you guess the one on the left, you're wrong. Those thin straps over his shoulders, they've never existed. At least not in this current reality. In the original cartoons, the official character art, the theme parks, none of it shows Mickey wearing suspenders. He just has shorts with 2 buttons. And tell me if this pops into your head. You know, because I kind of looked at this and I was like, yeah, modern Mickey Mouse, I don't always think of the suspenders, but definitely in that old cartoon. It just looks right. And when I picture that black and white cartoon in my head, I always think of Mickey like pulling his suspenders and snapping them back, and apparently I'm not alone on that, but what do you all think? Next up, we have an odd little phenomenon known as the Kappa Effect. It shows how our brains aren't always great at judging time. Scientists have found that the distance between things we can see can change how long we think time lasts, even when the timing is exactly the same. This is known as the Kappa Effect, or perceptual time dilation. Basically, when two things happen one after the other in different places, our minds don't judge the time between them properly if there's a big gap in space between them. If 2 flashes of light appear appear and the second one is farther away from the first, people will think more time passed between them, even when it didn't. If the flashes are closer together in space, people think less time passed. Again, even though the timing was the same. This has been shown in controlled lab studies using visual flashes, and versions of it show up in auditory and touch experiments as well. It seems that our sense of time is not separate from our sense of space. Our brains kind of muddy the two, so even something as basic as distance can bend how we experience time. Next up, I have another Mandela Effect for you. The Scooby-Doo gang. They're iconic, right? Especially Shaggy and Scoop, and you close your eyes and you can picture them instantly. Scooby with that goofy smile and blue collar, Shaggy with his classic green shirt, Adam's apple sticking out, and that patchy goatee. Except one of those things with Shaggy is not actually accurate. Which do you think it is? It's the Adam's apple. He doesn't have it. But don't we all picture it? He's tall and gangly and he has a big Adam's apple. It just fits. So what is this weird reality we now find ourselves in where that little detail is missing? According to Redditor DateRichWillow_up22, they may have briefly entered into an alternate timeline. I was in our office kitchen grabbing coffee when my manager asked me to attend a quick meeting in the conference room. I walked in, and a few coworkers were already there. We started talking about a project, went over a few documents, and I remember the discussion clearly. When I went back to my desk, I mentioned the meeting to another colleague, only to get a confused look. "What meeting?" they said. I asked the manager later. He said no one scheduled anything. The room hadn't been booked. I'm 100% sure the conversation happened though. I even remember specific comments from coworkers, but when I checked my email and calendar, there was no record, no reminder, nothing. It's like the meeting existed for me, but not for everyone else. Have you ever heard of the Oz factor? There's a strange experience people have reported for decades. The world suddenly feels like it stops. All the typical sounds you normally hear, like birds, traffic, and all the movement, it just pauses. It often lasts only a few seconds, maybe half a minute at most. But while it's happening, there's this uncanny feeling of time being off. Some even describe feeling like they've stepped into a totally different reality. The term Oz factor was coined by British researcher Jenny Randles in the late 80s. She noticed this same description popping up again and again in reports from people who claim strange encounters or unexplained experiences. Different countries, different ages of the people, same feeling though, silence, awkward, eerie stillness. What's interesting though is that this doesn't only happen during dramatic events. Some people report it while walking home or sitting in their car, and then just as suddenly, everything comes back. The sound rushes in, birds start chirping, cars pass by again. Psychologists have acknowledged that people genuinely experience this, but there's no agreed upon explanation. Bold Street in Liverpool is usually just a busy shopping street. Cafes and clothing stores, bookshops, but over the years it's also become known for something a lot stranger. People claim they briefly stepped into the past while walking down it. One of the most talked about stories comes from a retired police officer named Frank. In 1996, he was walking along Bold Street to meet his wife for coffee when something fell off. The shops around him didn't look right. Modern storefronts were gone, replaced with older ones. The people around him were dressed like it was the 1950s. Even the cars parked along the street looked decades old now. Trying to make sense of it, Frank walked into a shop called Cripps to buy something for his wife. The moment he stepped inside, everything snapped back. The shop was modern again. The street outside looked normal. All the old cars and vintage clothes were gone. Bold Street as he always knew it. And there's another story from 2006. A couple was shopping on Bold Street when the woman decided to step into a bookshop. As soon as she entered, she felt this chill. Inside the shop, it looked completely different. The books, the shelves, everything felt like it belonged to the early 1900s. She rushed back outside and found herself back in the present, with her husband confused about why she looked so shaken up. There are plenty of stories like this tied to Bold Street. For whatever reason, this street has earned a reputation as a place where time doesn't always seem to behave the way it should. That's been the video for today. I will catch you, yes, you specifically, next time.